You don't choose to become a Navy SEAL. You choose to try. There's a difference that matters more than you'll understand until you're standing in cold Pacific water at 3 in the morning wondering if hypothermia or your instructors will break you first. This is what happens at every level of the pipeline. The transformation from whoever you were into something the military spent decades learning how to create. Level 1. The candidate. Basic underwater demolition, SEAL training BUD/S, starts before you arrive. It starts when you sign the contract with a recruiter who's seen 1,000 versions of you, all convinced they're different. Most contracts don't make it to Coronado. Life intervenes. Second thoughts accumulate. The date approaches, and suddenly the civilian world doesn't seem so bad after all. But you show up, which already puts you ahead of the guys who didn't. The first phase is designed around a simple question. How much discomfort can you tolerate before your mind overrides your body's willingness to continue? The instructors aren't testing your strength. They're testing your relationship with suffering. Can you function when every system in your body is screaming for this to stop? Can you make decisions when you're too cold to think clearly and too tired to care about consequences? Hell Week arrives in week 4. 5.5 days of continuous training with maybe 4 hours of sleep total if you're lucky. You won't be lucky. The human body can survive this. Thousands have proven it, but your body doesn't know that. Your body thinks it's dying, and it's very convincing about it. Hallucinations start around day 3. You'll have conversations with people who aren't there. You'll see things in the darkness that seem absolutely real until they disappear. One guy in your class swears there's a train coming through the compound. He can hear it, see the lights, feel the ground shaking. There is no train. There's never a train. But his brain, desperate for meaning in the chaos, creates one anyway. The bell sits in the center of the compound. Ring it 3 times and you're done. No judgment, no questions, just out. It's the most tempting object you've ever seen. The instructors remind you it's there. They describe how good it would feel to be warm, to be dry, to sleep in an actual bed instead of shivering in surf torture. Some guys ring out in groups, deciding together that this isn't worth it. Some ring out alone in the middle of the night when they think no one's watching. Everyone's always watching. You survive Hell Week through a trick your mind plays. You stop thinking about the days remaining and focus on the next meal, the next evolution, the next 60 seconds. The future is too heavy to carry. The present moment, however terrible, is manageable. This lesson will matter more than anything else you learn here. Phase 2 is diving. The pool feels warm after weeks of ocean torture, which should be comforting but isn't. Now they're testing whether you panic when you can't breathe. The instructors tie your air hoses in knots underwater, rip your mask off, shut down your valves. Your job is to fix everything while your lungs burn and your brain screams that you're drowning. Some candidates freeze. The panic takes over and they surface, failing the evolution. You learn that panic is a choice, not a requirement. Uncomfortable physiological response, yes, but you can observe it without obeying it. Phase 3 is land warfare. Finally, you get to shoot things and blow things up, which is what you thought SEAL training would be from the beginning. Turns out the shooting is the easy part. Any decent infantry unit can shoot. What makes SEALs different is everything that happens before and after the shooting. The infiltration, the patience, the capacity to operate in small teams without support or supervision. You're learning to be trusted with violence in places where no one's watching to make sure you use it correctly. Graduation happens on a Friday. Your class started with 220 candidates. 43 of you are standing in formation wearing the trident. The attrition rate was over 80%, which is normal. The instructors don't celebrate with you. They've seen too many classes graduate to find it remarkable. For them, this is Tuesday. For you, this is the culmination of everything you've survived. But here's what no one tells you at graduation. Earning the trident is the easiest part. What comes next is harder. Level 2, the new guy. You report to a team that's been operating together for years. They have rhythms you don't understand and references you don't share. You're the FNG, the guy who has to prove he belongs every single day until eventually you don't. Your first deployment is to a desert that feels like standing inside an oven. The temperature hits 120 degrees by 10 in the morning. You're wearing 70 pounds of gear and wondering how humans are supposed to function in this. The answer is they're not. But you do it anyway because the alternative is admitting you can't. Your first mission is overwatch for a convoy moving through hostile territory. You set up on a rooftop with your spotter, a guy named Martinez who's done this 70 times before. He's calm in ways that seem impossible given the situation. You watch through your scope as civilians mix with potential threats in patterns you can't quite decode yet. Martinez calls out details you didn't notice, the way someone's walking, the bulge under a jacket that might be nothing or might be everything. He's reading a language you're still learning the alphabet for. The shot comes at hour 3 of a 6-hour watch. A man on a motorcycle moving against traffic patterns, hand reaching inside his jacket toward something Martinez identifies as a threat before you even process what you're seeing. The engagement happens fast. Martinez confirms hostile. You acquire target, the trigger breaks, the man drops. The motorcycle crashes into a wall. Later, you'll learn he was carrying explosives meant for the convoy. Right now, you just know your first combat kill happened so quickly there wasn't time for doubt. That night, you expect to feel different, changed somehow. What you actually feel is tired and hungry and annoyed that your gear needs maintenance. The philosophical reckoning you anticipated doesn't arrive. Maybe it will later. Maybe some people just process violence differently than others. Martinez doesn't ask if you're okay because the question would be insulting. You did your job correctly. That's the only metric that matters here. The deployments blur together over the next 3 years. Different countries with similar problems. Operations you can't discuss with people who weren't there. You become fluent in the language Martinez was speaking. Threat assessment develops from conscious analysis into something closer to instinct. You know when a situation is wrong before you can articulate why. You watch teammates get hit. Some walk away, some don't. There's a night operation that goes sideways when intelligence turns out to be 48 hours old instead of current. Your squad walks into an ambush that should have killed all of you but only killed 2. The randomness is the hardest part. Why them and not you? There's no answer that satisfies. Level 3, the operator. You're not the new guy anymore. You've got 3 deployments behind you and capabilities that extend beyond shooting. Breaching, demolitions, communications, medical training. You're a problem solver who happens to carry a rifle. The missions get more complex because the team trusts you with complexity. There's an operation nobody talks about afterward. A target in a compound surrounded by civilians. The intelligence is time-sensitive and absolute. The window is narrow. Your team infiltrates at night, moving through a city that's technically peaceful but feels anything but. The compound is exactly where the intel said. The target is exactly who they said. The civilians are also there, sleeping in adjacent rooms separated by walls that won't stop bullets. The breach is textbook. 4 minutes from entry to exfil. The target is secured without firing a shot because sometimes the presence of violence prevents the need for violence. The civilians never wake up. They'll never know how close they came to being collateral damage in someone else's war. You exfiltrate through streets that remain quiet because your team is good at being ghosts. These are the missions that matter. Not the firefights that look dramatic in movies, but the surgical operations that prevent firefights from happening. You're preventing futures, erasing possibilities, removing specific humans from the equation so that broader violence becomes less likely. The math is abstract, but the consequences are real. You watch younger guys join the team and recognize yourself 4 years ago. The eagerness mixed with uncertainty. The desire to prove themselves against standards they don't fully understand yet. You become the guy who teaches them what Martinez taught you. How to read situations. When to act and when to wait. The difference between confidence and stupidity. Level 4. The veteran. Your body starts keeping score. Knees that ache before weather changes. A shoulder that reminds you about that hard landing in Kandahar. Hearing loss from years of explosions that seemed manageable at the time. You're 32 years old and feel 50 in specific joints. You've done 8 deployments. You've lost count of operations. The missions that seemed significant at the time blend into a continuous experience punctuated by moments that still surface unexpectedly. The teammate who didn't make it home. The shot you missed that you'll always wonder about. The shot you made that still feels questionable despite every regulation saying it was clean. You start thinking about what comes after. The civilian world that kept moving while you were gone. The skills that translate and the ones that don't. How do you explain this life to people who've never lived it? You can't, really, so you don't try. Your final deployment is to a place you've been before, doing work that feels familiar. The team operates with efficiency that comes from repetition. You know these guys better than your own family. You've trusted them with your life so many times it's become routine. The last mission is unremarkable. Overwatch for an operation that succeeds without complications. You watch through your scope as the objective is secured and the team exfiltrates cleanly. Professional execution of practiced skills. Exactly how it's supposed to work. You don't know it's your last mission until you're already home. The decision forms gradually, then suddenly. You've given enough. You've done enough. The trident stays with you, but the life behind it becomes something you used to do. What remains is the capability and the knowledge and the understanding that you were part of something that mattered. Some nights you still dream in tactical problems. Your mind never fully leaves the teams. But your body does, and eventually that has to be enough. The thing they don't tell you about leaving is that you carry two versions of yourself afterward. The person you are now, and the person you were then. They coexist uncomfortably. You'll be standing in line at a coffee shop and suddenly you're back in that compound, making decisions in seconds that people spend years second-guessing from safety. The civilian world moves at a different speed, cares about different things, measures success by metrics that feel trivial compared to what you've measured. But here's what you learn eventually. The training wasn't just about creating a warrior. It was about discovering what you're capable of when everything comfortable gets stripped away. That capability doesn't disappear when you take off the uniform. It transforms into something else. Resilience in different contexts, leadership in different environments. The understanding that most limitations are negotiable if you're willing to pay the price. The trident means you answered a question most people never ask themselves. How far can I actually go? You found out. That knowledge doesn't fade.